F1 Show podcast. The applause is a bit loud. Sorry, people. Yeah, so I'm the host for the most, Wayne, and today we haven't got the man in the pits with the tits. He is off. He's off. Rumour has it he's applying for Lance Stroll's job as a driver, but we have a super sub stand-in, and his name is Steve. He's the man in the paddock that smells of haddock. Here we go.
Thank you. What introduction. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the F1 Show podcast.
Thank you.
Okay, so because we haven't got the man in the pits with the tits, all that technical stuff that we usually talk about, we can't talk about. So what I thought we'd talk about is
that because I don't know technical stuff?
You don't know technical. Well, I'm not making a massive assumption there. I can change a tyre, and I can just change a tyre. That's it. Anything else on an engine or power block, as they call it. I don't like it when they call it a power block in motorsport. It's an engine. They're just trying to fool us there, right? So what I thought we'd talk about is, what have you seen the highlights of the races so far this season?
I have, yeah. I have.
And what did you think of the races so far? So far, hang on. First of all, we're going to go to pit talk.
Okay.
Pit talk. Okay, that's the intro to pit talk done. One of my lovely little animations. The applause is there, right? Okay. So, Steve, what do you think of the season so far?
So, before the season started, I'm not sure I'd kind of ever been so excited about the start of an F1 season. Like, genuinely.
Really?
Yeah, because I felt as though things needed to change a bit, and I wanted Max to win last year, so I was really excited to see what was going to happen. And we're a few races in, and I just have this kind of...
So you're a Max fan? You're a Max...
Last season, I really wanted Max to win, yeah.
Is that because, like, we had this, like, in previous seasons when, like, Schumacher just consistently dominated each season, and it does get boring, doesn't it? It gets like...
Yeah, I wanted... I love champions. I love people that just can win ruthlessly. I love that in any sport. And,
you like the ruthless element?
Just that they can continue just to keep themselves motivated on the top. That's really difficult, and then it's so hard to do because not many people do it in sport. But Max is just so talented, and Mercedes has just been so dominant, and it was just nice to see Red Bull come produce a car that was really challenging them for the first time, really consistently. So they had the odd race where they could beat Mercedes, but it was nice to see.
Yeah, because like sometimes you'll get a dominant team, and then they'll just make a dud car one year, and then they'll whip it back. But this one is different. Like last season was different, that they had a dominant team, but they had another team challenging them, as opposed to the new season started and we haven't got things right, you know.
Yeah.
And I can remember like when McLaren just ended up at the back of the grid all of a sudden, like from being really quite dominant and then not getting it right, and being at the back. So then it was obvious it was going to be a new champion. But to have two teams so tightly wound, and the tension, and the radical changes that have happened since last season, what do you think of those on the whole? Because you were super excited, like you said.
Yeah, and my point I was going to say is I'm got this tiny little nag in my head that we've gone. You know, there's a new world order with it, and it's Ferrari have jumped ahead of everyone. Are we going to be in a position where they've marched they've got in front, and it's going to be so difficult for everyone else to kind of...
So it'll just be like a Ferrari domination?
We're just going to we went to the hybrid era, and Mercedes cleaned up every year, didn't they? Are we going to go into this era where it's going to be Ferrari? They've put all their eggs into this basket for the last couple of years, it feels like.
Ferrari have a good way of having having really strong opening races and then just flaking off. And I always thought that was like more of a Vettel thing, you know, like Vettel maybe couldn't quite handle the pressure, because whatever you think about Lewis Hamilton, he can soak up that pressure.
Oh God, yeah. I remember Vettel was leading the championship. It might have been 2018 when it started to go really sour after that for Ferrari. He spun out the German Grand Prix. It was home Grand Prix. He was winning the race.
Yeah, and it was like it was human error mistake.
It was a Vettel mistake as opposed to anything else, and
you can imagine just driving around. So like you're doing something repetitively. You must get a point where your mind just wanders slightly. I don't know.
Start thinking a few laps ahead, or no, I've got 10 laps to go, and nearly there.
Or like, I wonder what I'm going to have for tea. You know, and whoa, you know, you're in the wall. You know, yeah. So, what do you think of the actual changes? Do you think they've given us the racing that we want?
Yeah, I mean, there's the overtaking seems to be there, isn't it? They're definitely able to do that, but yeah, it would appear that some teams have created cars that are better able to manage the new sort of downforce regulations. It would appear, and looking at the Mercedes, it's almost kind of bizarre how they're just literally bouncing down the track, aren't they, at the minute? And it fascinates me really, because when I've read a few bits, and the stuff that I've got around them is they can't make drastic changes quickly because they've got to do it incrementally, all the little changes they want to make to see if it's having the desired effects. They can't let's just revamp the whole thing, because they might miss the really important part that they need to make the car quicker and less sort of all over the place.
A lot of that happens is like they know what's causing a problem, so they make an incremental change, and then it causes just another problem somewhere else.
Exactly.
So it's almost like you're doing this. Oh, now that bit doesn't work because of that bit. So everything it's almost like they've got a major problem, and the more they try and fix it, then they go, oh, that's causing another problem here, and another problem there.
The right problem in the right way, you might get rid of the other problems that are associated to it, that's symptomatic of the main problem. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's their problem, and they've admitted that this could take 4 or 5 races before we get a real idea of.
I don't know. I don't think you can count out Lewis Hamilton. I mean, the last race, for them still to be up there now, and McLaren were a bit rubbish at the start as well, and they're up there a bit, but they're kind of open. They're saying like, this track suited us, so the changes aren't going to. Next race we're going to be back at the. It was almost like an admission. Like when I saw Lando Norris's interview, he was like, "Oh, don't get too excited. This track just suited us," you know. And it seems like Mercedes can go that extra to get somewhere where I don't know. So what do you think of the overtaking though? Do you think it's...
I think you get used to it, I suppose, very quickly, didn't you? It's sort of, one goes past them and the other one's back past them, so you can get kind of 2 or 3 overtakes really quickly of the same 2 cars, can't you? So it seems quite difficult to get away from the car. You overtake it and then it's back coming past you, sort of thing. I think it's good. I think it's been needed, hasn't it? These changes have been needed, and it makes it more exciting.
Go on.
I was hoping we was going to get a real left field team, up here. We just strike lucky with the whole design and the aerodynamic package.
It felt like we had that with Haas.
I want to see McLaren fight. That's what I want to see. I want to see McLaren.
It felt like we had that with Haas though, didn't we? Because they seem to all of a sudden getting rid of Nikita Mazepin, and I'm sorry, I've got to play the emotional music because poor old Nicky. I'm a big fan of the person at the back of the grid. I always.
Well, if you watch Drive to Survive, you won't feel that about him. I can assure you.
You what? Well, I watched it.
Drive to Survive, you won't feel that about him.
I did watch like the new episode. He has a communication problem. It's almost like he'll say things in interviews.
That just tries to bully the team, and if this doesn't happen, I'll take my money and run away. So I've
not seen all of the Drive to Survive seasons. Is that what it's like? It's
kind of petulant child, and very much. So. What's the boy out of Charlie?
Holding back no punches here on the F1 Show podcast. Petulant child, we're going for it.
Charlie in the Chocolate Factory eats all the food. The really spoiled boy, gloopers something.
I watched a Hard Talk interview with him. When I say Hard Talk, it's on the BBC, so it's never going to be that hard. But it was a 7-minute interview, so that's really. And he was just complaining, just about, I'm a political. This is all politics. I've been kicked out.
Yeah.
And,
on one of the episodes, in particular last year on Drive to Survive, Mick Schumacher was just outperforming him quite clearly, and you know, the dad's on video on the film saying what have you put on his car that's so much better than you know my son's sort of car. It's like, you know, really bitching.
Yeah,
about
it's not the car, mate. It's not the car.
Quite fast compared to him.
No, it's what's in the car.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you gave birth to him, not literally, but
Yeah.
But yeah, he's an odd character. Like, I was watching him in this interview, and he just says some turns of phrases that are just weird.
Yeah.
Like I saw another interview of him. He said, they said, how are you doing? How are you getting on with development of the car? This was from last year. And he said, oh, you can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. And it's just like, as much as I like it, it's not really useful.
I think Gunther Steiner summed it up quite nicely when he was in the car and he said something back to the team, and he got out of the car and he says to him, "That's why everyone hates you." Not diplomatic at all. That's why everyone hates you.
But the problem is, I'm a sucker for that. See, I'm a sucker for, if everyone hates someone, I immediately go into, oh God, this is the whipping boy. So I've never seen any of Drive to Survive. Okay,
it's kind of like, isn't it like being kind of, you know, swearing at the chef before you get your dinner, or complaining about your food, moaning at your mechanics online. It's like, you know, just don't tighten something up a little bit, or, you know, it's the same sort of thing. It's a bit of a risk, isn't it? No.
The angle I'm going at is they become, so like when you see racing, and I always say this a lot on the podcast, it's like one person's always just getting his elbows out is another person's dangerous driving.
Yeah.
So it would always be all the rest of the field moaning about Mazepin trying to overtake him, or he's doing something. But you know that if Alonso did the same thing, it was, oh, he's just hard racing. You know, it's just.
Gunther Steiner was talking about his engineers and his pit crew. They hate you. That's why they hate you, because he was bitching about the car on the radio. So
he must have been talking. Do you think he was talking about the audience as a whole, or was he talking about the other drivers?
No, he was moaning on radio in the car about the car, telling everyone
how
terrible the car was. So when he got out, Gunther was trying to talk to him and explain to him.
Yeah.
And in his own unique way said, that is why everyone hates you.
He's got a unique turn of phrase, that man has.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. So how do you think the teams are shaping up then?
Well, the unreliability for Red Bull is kind of making it a little bit exciting, but it's also, you don't want Leclerc to
walk away with it. You don't.
Yeah, that's my worry at the minute. We're just going to go from the hybrid era into an era where actually it's all about Ferrari. I mean, I don't think that will happen, because I think Mercedes have got the resource to be able to sort their issues out.
They
will sort them out, and it could make it interesting later on in the season, I think.
Do you think, like, after the last race, it was just a lot of talk of the season's over? You know, it's almost like that. And for me, it's like, really, we're calling the season after like the third race because Red Bull's cars.
I mean, they've all said Leclerc's a great driver, and I suppose until you put someone in the right car, sometimes you don't see how fast they are, but he is genuinely quick, isn't he? He really does drive the car.
He seems to be, and then there's that other word, that pressure word, because Sainz, I think he's walked his way into a number 2 spot, hasn't he? Really?
He's just signed a new. We just signed a new 2-year deal today as well.
Well, has he? Oh, hot off the press, podcast listeners. Hot off the press. We are not. Well, when we say hot off the press here, it's at least 4 days old news. But
it's fairly. I think it's less old than that, I believe.
But what sort of, but the disaster of his last race.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good driver. He was superb at McLaren before he left. So he picks up the speed of the car quickly. I think he's pretty smart. Sainz, I do like him actually. I think he's got quite a good personality for it. But
I think the pressure must have got to it. It seemed like, I'm just having a little sip of my old vino here, podcast. I think the pressure. I think watching the last race, watching the opening lap, and I said this on the previous podcast, is I think the pressure got to him. Like he found himself in 9th, and he was just desperate to get up the field, and he made some rash mistakes, and that doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. He's got a car under him. Especially
the car would have got him to 2nd place without too much of a problem in the
race. Yeah, he could have coasted. It could have taken a couple more laps, but he's just that kind of like.
As you say, the pressure might be, if Leclerc gets, a 50-point lead on me, then I am second fiddle for the rest of the season, aren't I?
The team will have that nice chat with him.
Yeah,
Do you
exactly.
want to pop in the office?
Yeah.
You know Bottas? Do you remember him?
Just pop up.
You know Bottas? He was a good driver, wasn't he? Well,
He's doing well, isn't he? I put him in my Formula One dream team.
yeah.
And he scored well. He's scoring well.
He's doing all right. It must be quite nice to be finishing ahead of Hamilton.
Yeah.
It must be like, yeah. And so what about the other teams? So what about Red Bull? What do you think? What's going on there?
Yeah, well, there seems to be a fuel issue, isn't it? And the reliability around the whole fuel system of some kind. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, we haven't got the man in the pits today. So, yeah, it just seems odd that one of them. Yeah, I mean, do you think Perez is going to be challenging as well? As in challenging, or do you think Perez has got the same deal as a Bottas? So like,
I think he possibly has a similar deal, but I think he's a far better driver, and I think he's capable of challenging because I do think he's pretty quick actually.
Yeah, I think another thing I noticed about this season is there's a lot less of the team principals. I mean, I've watched 3 races now, and I've not seen any shots.
Yeah. Well, I think that I think just watching what happened last year it was getting a little bit. I think it was getting a little bit out of control, wasn't it? Really, the way they was trying to dictate and the psychological warfare that was almost taking place between them. I thought it was a bit embarrassing watching it at times. Certainly from Horner's point of view, for me. I mean, yeah.
You're not a fan of Horner. Tell me what you call him.
Karen Horner.
Karen Horner.
We call him. There's loads of us that call him it.
I think there's been a purpose moving away from the actual production side of it as well, from shoving the camera in Christian Horner's face or Toto Wolff's face every time there's an overtake. Obviously, for Toto, it must be quite nice for Toto Wolff not to have the camera constantly.
Yeah.
Shoved in.
Shift. And the other dynamic, which I think is absolutely enormous in terms of the drivers, is Leclerc and Verstappen are fabulous friends and actually have the most amount of respect for each other. So you're not going to get the nonsense that you've ever had with Hamilton and Verstappen. It just won't happen. So something will have to be very drastic for those two to fall out.
You say that, but we've seen this in the past. They're good mates.
Hamilton and Rosberg were buddies through karting, weren't they? So. But Leclerc and Verstappen have a very, very good relationship at this stage. Obviously, that can change, but I'll be surprised if it gets to where Hamilton and Verstappen. It
is a different animal when it's in the same team.
Much calmer Verstappen, apart from obviously when he breaks down. But when he's racing,
for me, he's still a bit of petulant.
Mm.
He does like him.
I like that.
You like the moaning on the radio?
Not so much that. I just like how aggressive he is. I do like that. I think, do you know what? I think in order to win that title, I think he knew he had to disrupt Hamilton to such an extent. It meant being ultra aggressive, over the top on a few occasions, just to make it.
Almost like I'm going to literally.
I've got to get in your head.
I'm going to be a dickhead, basically.
And you need to know, I will do anything it takes to get you this year. And I think Hamilton knew that. Yeah, I think Hamilton knew that.
Where, I suppose. Almost a little bit out of character to a sense. It's like, I'm going to be maxed to the max sort of thing.
He's done so many things, didn't he? I mean, apart the crash at Silverstone, Hamilton sort of got the rap for, didn't he? But most of the time it was Max as the real aggressor, wasn't it? And then when he got sort of sanctioned for anything, he was moaning like anything. This is just so unfair. It's kind of like, surely you must be watching what the rest of the world has watched just then, and
So, what did you think of the last race of the season?
Well, I wanted him to win, so it was great fun watching it unfold. It obviously shouldn't happen like that because.
Do you think it was fair? Do you think the best man won? Oh, there's a pause here, people.
You know what? I think
he's pausing.
The end of the season, Hamilton drove fabulously well. I mean, the weekend in Brazil was just probably the best race weekend I would say he's ever had. It was incredible watching that, wasn't it? From the sprint race right the way through the weekend. I don't know what position he was started the sprint race in, but he ended up winning the race, didn't he?
He ended up from the back of the sprint race to.
He was way down. He was about 17th or 18th or something silly, wasn't he? He was fantastic.
Yeah,
and he got the race sewn up apart from the beefy crash. It all went horribly wrong, didn't it?
But, And I think it was a sad way to end the season, almost in the Prost Senna kind of mold of a sad way to end the season, because they both almost done totally different Well, the Senna and the Prost thing, we'll talk about that later. But yeah. So what about other teams? Who's been another highlight?
Well, I say McLaren looked a bit brighter, didn't they? I really, really would like to see them be strong.
Well, for me, I think Alonso, an elder statement. He's done very well considering.
If you put him in that Ferrari, he'd win the races as a captain.
Yeah, and who's had the worst start to a season? Come on, you must know who that is.
Well, I'm not really looking at the bottom of the standings at the minute. Who's right down there? It's not the Hasses, are they? They're not down there.
Hasses, and we've got a new driver, an old new driver, and I've got to put my romantic music on because I'm a bit in love with him. Where is my romantic music? is there? There we go. You have no idea how long it took me to find this piece of music. Kevin Magnussen. Kevin Magnussen. Now, do you think? Let me just hear this out. It's beautiful. God love him. Right. I'll stop that music now. Do you think that puts my Mickey Schumacher's place in a little bit of jeopardy? Because he's walked in and he's consistently, apart from the last race, he's consistently outdone old Schumacher. I don't rate Mickey Schumacher, and I've said this time and time again on this podcast, on this very stage, that just because you've got a surname that's the same as someone who won a championship doesn't really mean you deserve it. And we've had this time and time again. Bruno Senna, Christian Fittipaldi, who never got in that seat and never was going to get in that seat, to be honest.
Yeah. I watched the talking about Mick Schumacher, and it's got to be the introduction. He's been manufactured into it. But I watched the Schumacher documentary.
Oh, I've not seen that yet.
Yeah, it kind of was dragged on a bit, but
it's for me. If it's got too many subtitles, I struggle. He was just incredible, just all the time. But yeah, the attention to detail that he put in with all the teams that he was driving for, he'd be there till midnight every night, just trying to find a millisecond in the lap, just anything that he could make the car go. Do you think they've got that kind of driver still now?
Well, I've been reading a lot of stuff about Hamilton. They said he's just relentless. He's looking at, he's going over everything. Where can they find something? Where could they go every department that does anything that could potentially make the car go faster? He's in there, sort of thing. I think
he's that kind of driver.
Yeah.
So for me, the worst start to a season is obviously Sebastian Vettel. He's just one. He's not been there. He's had the old.
Quite tricky for him, I guess, isn't it?
He had the old cough and splutters, didn't he? And now the first race back, he's all over the show. Do you think that's just too much time away?
Maybe. I mean, his teammate is
his teammate. No, you want to talk about his teammate, Lance?
Really, yeah. Should he be there? I doubt it. No.
You don't think he should be there?
Well, I get they need sponsorship, but I'm sure there's lots of other drivers that.
So who's his teammate? Stroll, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. Is that a wallet again?
I'm not. Owns the team, doesn't he?
Oh, of course he does. Every time. Let me just find me old.
No.
Brendan's going to be so annoyed with me. Yes, his dad owns the team, and again, do you think they're going to look at this? If Daddy has got lots of money, can I put my son in a car model of racing? Is going to be on the way out.
Some up and young, coming brilliant driver.
He's going to lose. Well, I mean, the last race he was penalised a lot for a lot of weaving.
Right. Okay.
And there was a lot of talk of him losing more points off his super license. And what became apparent is he didn't really understand what he'd done wrong. So going down a straight, just going left and right, trying to stop people from overtaking you, is not how you do it. It's not like bumper cars, Lance. You just this is my tactic: left, right, all the way down the straights. No one could get past me.
Show them.
Another thing, we saw there was a slight change to, I wanted to go back to the Verstappen thing you were saying about how he'd race psychologically would be, what are you drinking there? Just Coke. You being a good boy.
I'm sponsored by them.
Is this a sponsor? Don't do that. We don't get paid. Oh, Coca-Cola, Diet Coke. Oh. Another thing was a part of that psychological game was the restarts on safety cars and how that rule has changed now, because Verstappen would just all literally bully his way.
I've never seen a car do what he done on the restart of the last race. I mean, he was practically in front of him, wasn't he? He was level with him. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and that is psychological stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. And
apparently, it doesn't help him at all because it messes up his entry to a corner.
Yeah.
It never really was an advantage. Or you could say
the corner was adopting the same approach with sort of Wolf Toto. I think he was going into press conferences and just,
So they all had this mindset of
going to the press conference almost on steroids. You know what I mean? Right? Let's just get in his head. Let's say whatever we need to say just to disrupt him and his thinking.
Yeah, just like we're gonna go in here and we're gonna tweak this guy's nipple. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I'm just gonna call him a dick or something just to wind him up or whatever it is. I mean,
that's real schoolboy mentality, isn't it?
When you watch, Drive to Survive, there is a bit of that going on. Right, let's go.
Yeah.
That language is being used, sort of thing.
It's funny because Toto Wolff was kind of like, you look at him, he's a very cool customer, but when you see him smashing his headphones against, it must be so nice for him not to have that camera in his face.
Yeah, I don't think Michael Massey will ever be on his Christmas card list, will he? I think it's fair to say.
I don't think Michael Massey's very popular at all now.
Yeah,
he's picked the right time to move on, I think.
But yeah, I think I saw an interview with Toto. What do you think about Michael? He said, "Well, I'll never speak to him again." That was very, the most clear-cut answer you've ever heard. Well, I'll never speak to the man again. And that was it.
Do you not think that it's a lot of money, isn't it? It's a lot of money involved. I think that's a lot of pressure. So another thing I wanted to ask, like on the back of last season, do you think there is too much micromanagement in the sport from the FIA? It's a bit of a loaded question because I think there is, but go on.
Yeah, I mean, there was a few examples last year when it was almost like the rules were there, but actually the arguments raged whether the rules had been interpreted properly. It's almost like they'd created the rules were so almost finely balanced that actually there was still an argument. Like, what race was it where Verstappen got pulled on? Was it a yellow flag or waved whatever the flag was? And he said, "No, I didn't see it. It was a blue. Someone waved a flag in error."
Yeah.
I mean, they was arguing well into the night about it, weren't they? Because Verstappen kept his lap or didn't drop off the accelerator because there was a blue flag, but the flag was waved in error. They found out from the steward, and in the end, slagging the steward off, saying, "Well, control your stewards. Why is he waving the flag? He shouldn't have been waving that flag."
But I do think like the micromanagement of the sport. So like when there's an investigation into an overtake, they can literally get all the information on did he lift his foot just a tiny bit here, or did he?
The data they can rely on.
They can just go, right, let's look at the data and look at the cameras, and for me it takes it a little bit away from the sport.
Yeah, it's a bit like the old-fashioned football referees, play on kind of
thing.
Yeah, play on.
Nothing, it's almost like a VAR system going on within the sport.
I think the biggest one of that last year was the Silverstone incident, wasn't it, where Hamilton said, "I had the racing line going into the corner," and sort of, all of a sudden there's 180 mile an hour into the barrier.
Who do you think was to blame for that?
They both wanted the corner, didn't they? I think, to me, that was a classic racing incident. What's his name was being as aggressive as he could be, so he was going to try and come across him on the corner, I think, and Hamilton was like, "Well, you're not doing that." So that happens, doesn't it, when two people do that?
Yeah, I did find some of the rhetoric from Red Bull a little bit hyperbolic. So like Hamilton would be celebrating, and because Verstappen was in the hospital just getting a check over, it's quite obvious he wasn't dead. We're not talking. There wasn't a hearse driving around while Hamilton's waving the flag, and they were saying, "Oh, Verstappen was in the hospital. He could have been really hurt." It's like, come on. You're playing a game there when you're doing that.
Though, isn't it? That's the politics.
Do you think there's too much politics in it?
it's just rife in it, isn't it? It's probably the worst sport for health thing in terms of politics. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think politics in sport is a good thing? Politics in any sport?
I think, well, countries use sport as a political statement, don't they? That's always been the case, I think.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting. I think I'm not a massive fan of Hamilton and his sort of his virtue signalling to certain sort of political causes. And I'm really not, I think all that kneeling and that, look, guys, let's just get on with the sport. Whatever your personal politics is your personal politics. It shouldn't be. But I did think, was it Saudi Arabia last year? Where he wore the helmet with the LGBT flag on it. And for me, that did change my mind a little bit. I thought, no, that's a positive thing because that's a country that's actively doing things that are moral, ethic. Go on.
I think Hamilton would have much more of a difficult time changing the diversity issues in Chelsea Football Club.
Well, this is hot off the press, everybody. Hot off the press.
Formula One, let me tell you.
What's that about? Is he just? Who is he in talks with? Who's he in talks with?
Well, one of the buyers of Chelsea. They're one of the bidders. There's a big British consortium, so they're trying to make it very attractive that we're all British people. We've all got British money, so it's not American money, which is a lot because a lot of the money and Russian money that comes into the Premier League. So him and Serena Williams have both chucked 10 million quid into the bid.
Yeah, I was gonna do that, Steve. I looked at it.
But I think part of Hamilton's kind of, you can have this money, but I want to do all of the work around diversity for Chelsea. Most right-wing football club in the country, and he's going to go in there.
Do you think, is it right-wing? I'm not into football.
Well,
and this isn't a football podcast. How dare you? That was a great segue. That was a great segue.
This is a Formula One issue. And he's put 10 grand into the bid. $1 million.
I think we're nearly at the end of pit talk now. So what we're doing, we're going to have a quick word from Murray. So we've got to look up.
Okay.
There he is. There you go. There's a quick word from Murray. Right, okay. We've talked quite a lot in pit talk. I was going to go a good race, bad race. So what I thought I'd do is, I think we'll go straight into nostalgia. Nostalgia. Okay, so I want to hear why you follow Formula One. When did it start? When did this love affair begin?
I used to watch it. I've always watched it, but I suppose my earliest memories of it is James Hunt, really. Sort of late 70s. I was,
Are you joking me? You watched it when James? Are you joking? How old are you? How old are you again? How old are you?
I'm not saying that on air.
I don't think it's such. Well, how old were you when you were watching James Hunt? No, watching him race.
I remember 1977 when he won the world title and stuff. So
I'm sorry. I'm gonna. No. He won it in 1976. Okay, people. I apologise for that, Steve's complete error there. Complete error. I can't have letters in. We don't propagate fake news on this podcast. Okay.
I won't read them.
So you remember it? Tell me what you remember about that.
I remember him, and I just remember him and Lauda, sort of, being protagonists and that. But I've always watched it, always loved it, and as I got older, I started to really get into the.
See, I started.
The technical geeky stuff because I quite like that.
You like the technical geeky stuff?
I do. I'm not that type of person at all, apart from Formula One. I do like people like Brundle, like listening to him explain what's going on and why.
They are some of the pundits, like previously when James Hunt was being the commentator, you didn't get a lot of that technical gizmo, did you? Well, you get James Hunt popping in after having a quick shandy and saying, "Oh look, I've lost your voice there. Where you gone? You've gone quiet."
No, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Yeah. You didn't get any
shandy. I thought, as well as sort of.
Yeah, thing. as well as. If you read some of it, he was a legend, that man. And him and Murray Walker, they were a great team. And I started watching it in 1985. I started watching it. And straight away I just got into it. And it was Nigel Mansell for me. So I was the next. And because I knew that James Hunt was the last British champion, I just rooted for Nigel Mansell. And he was. He was. And he didn't have a lot of luck.
No.
I mean, how many times did that man could have won the championship prior to when he did. It's a good couple of times, you know, and yeah. So I started watching it in 1980, 85.
So what years? I'm not going to commit to a year now that I've got it one on.
Yeah, if you get it wrong, I'm gonna play.
What's the Senna year when his wheel went? What year was that?
1986. I'll have you know.
86, that one.
And I stayed up.
92, didn't he?
You what?
He won it in 92.
92. I can't confirm that now.
I can confirm that is correct.
I can confirm that it was 99. Look, you're on your phone checking. That's not fair, is it? Yeah, 1986, and I stayed up for that. It was the Australian Grand Prix in Adelaide. That's when they used to race in Adelaide.
Yeah.
And I stayed up for that, and I was heartbroken. Not, you know, I was 11, so I wasn't that heartbroken, but it was. I'd watched the whole season all the way through, thinking, now this is it. It's a shoo-in, isn't it? You know, he's only got to finish past 5th, I think it was, and Prost got it again. So, who was your favourite driver of the 80s then?
Mansell, yeah, Mansell.
Always Mansell. Never really.
Then in the mid 80s, but then obviously I loved Senna. Loved Senna when he came along, and I think that's when I really got into it, when the Senna Prost kind of dynamic appeared, which was just crazy.
It was, and what I found was, but that was a bit of a run. Like when they got into McLaren's, that was a bit of a runaway season, wasn't it? Because that was another sort of Schumacher kind of esque.
Yeah.
Two cars that I think they confirmed the most successful. I don't know, but what do you think of Senna as a racer?
Yeah, wonderful, wasn't it? Just he had it all, didn't he? I think really, and and the personality and you know everything that went with it just made him something a little bit special. I think, didn't it? Really.
You think? I'm not a big fan. I'm going to say it now. I think it was just like when you watch Drive to Survive and like you were saying, how people are portrayed, and there's a lot of criticism of Drive to Survive. So like I think we've mentioned this before, the Lando Norris kind of Daniel Ricciardo thing, where they're portrayed in a certain light as being antagonists. I watched the Senna movie. Have you seen the Senna movie? Yeah, I found Prost was portrayed quite horribly in that, and when I go back and watch all the old races because I'm a complete loser, and and you watch the actually old race interviews, and it is about those two different styles of driving, isn't it? So Prost was very much
vintage man.
Well, yeah, I'll do it's the louder hunt thing again, isn't it? One guy's gung ho, I'm just going to win no matter what, and the other guy's no, I'm going to do the calculations on this.
In a second, for the next 4 races, I'll win the title, kind of.
Yeah, I'll just cruise. I'll cruise in at third. I don't have to overtake this guy, you know. And I did find the way Prost was portrayed in that film was I just thought it was a bit naughty, because when you watch interviews with Prost, he often says, look, you know, I just can't work with him. I can't. He's
a massively political animal, wasn't it? He would use politics to get his own way. Senna at times, and Senna lived off emotion, didn't he? And he was very much a passion and emotion, and he would struggle with pragmatism, I think, at times, definitely.
Yeah.
Great images in that film, though, isn't there? When you know, there's a clip of Prost looking at him at one point, and there's just pure and utter, you know, fury and hatred.
What's that clip where he says, can't we just share the title? That's the ultimate pragmatist, isn't it? Yeah. It's like, can't we just share it? Can't we all be nice? Yeah. But
the season it ends. I think the last race it was Japan, wasn't it? And pole position was always on the quicker side of the track. And then what was the horrible president? Was it Prix? I can't remember what his surname was.
Oh, Prix. No, he was a driver. He's another driver. I'm going to give you another one of those there. You can't get things wrong on this podcast. I know we're low quality, anyway, but you can't get it wrong.
I'll find out what his name was. He moved pole position to the other side of the track because the Prost was on the quicker side of the track in Japan.
I think I'm trying to remember his name now. Not Enzo Ferrari, is it? Christ.
No.
It was an old guy with the glasses, wasn't he? He was just telling people to shut up in the drivers' meetings. It's like,
Google him. I'm going to find out his name.
Oh no, that's cheating. We don't Google. We don't.
No, well, I've got
I'm just. You Google while I talk to the podcast listeners. I'm really sorry about this podcast listeners. I know we promised low quality, but this just Googling it. We do have a habit of being a Wikipedia podcast, but what's his name? Oh, the silence. Well,
Jean-Marie Ballester.
Yeah, and he was just like vicious.
He was kind of that French looking.
Do you think you'd ever see that kind of character again? I mean, he almost bullied those drivers.
Oh yeah, the press conferences were almost
brutal.
Yeah, proper battles. Yeah.
And
the Senna film shows loads of it where they're all just the drivers are in there just like shaking their heads
like children, and like it's like like the school teacher. Oh, Sir's here again. You know, it's like
Yeah.
But I don't think
I kind of quite can't not help but like characters like that. You know, them that just
the headstrong character who, no matter what,
dominate and just bully their way through it. It's almost like it's fantastic watching people just get so cross with them.
It's one of those people that it don't matter if they're wrong; they're not going to apologise. Have you ever met one? You've met someone like that? So like, I can remember younger knowing someone who was like that. It was like you could literally prove to them that they're wrong. You go, yeah, well,
exactly. No, I don't believe you.
I'm always right, even when I'm wrong. I'm right, so shut up.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. Those kind of characters don't exist anymore, and this is a constant theme of our podcast: is we don't have those kind of characters. And I do think the over bureaucratization of the sport has ironed out those kind of gung-ho, real strong characters.
I think the trouble is in sports. I think F1 and I'm into golf. The new stars are manufactured from an age where they don't have anything different in their life. They're just
it's almost like
they know how they're taught how to drive in the perfect way, taught how to talk in the perfect way, they know how to deal with the press, they know how to deal all of these things. Whereas there's no personality where someone might say something that potentially might offend someone or say something that not everyone else agrees with, because they've got sort of the press person sort of using them like a puppet to say, tell them what to say.
And I found like in the last couple of races when Hamilton's been slightly relaxed on that now, so because he hasn't got that spotlight on him, a little bit freer in the press conferences, because we always make a joke, it's it's just about the people in the garage. I like to thank the people in the garage back in, so-and-so and the team and all the people, the fans. It's like, come on. I seriously want someone to come out on the press conference who's won it and gone, I did this. None of those fuckers in the garage did it. It was all me. The rest of them are losers. You are all losers. I deserve every second of this all on me. And I'd quite refreshed with that, So like you were saying about Verstappen and his arrogance, if there was a bit of that, not kissing the arse of the garage, no, I did it. I drove the car, not them. Who was driving? Who was at the wheel? Not you. That's just kind of. It was all me. So what? As part of this, let's have a quick word from Murray. Again, we're going to have a look up because I think Murray wants to talk to us. All right? Are you looking up? You got to look up.
Barnstorming.
Okay, wise words from Murray there. Wise words. Okay. You can watch all this on YouTube, people. And I'm just going to make a plea out to our podcast listeners. We've got a few. Do you know any Spanish or Portuguese? Do you know any Portuguese? Is that same? Is that the same? Is that the same as? Do they speak Spanish in Portugal?
No, they don't.
What do they speak? They speak
Brazilian.
Brazilian? That's Spanish, though, isn't it?
No, Portuguese.
Is that different from Spanish then?
Yeah, it's Portuguese.
Okay, let's go. Okay. I can tell you what, we've got an avid podcast listener from Portugal, and I plead with him, just send us a letter or an email or comment in the description. We've got Google Translate, not that I love using Google. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a little bit more nostalgia. We're going to talk about a very famous race that you went to. I want you to tell the podcast listeners.
I haven't been to loads of races, but I have been to one of the best ones, I think.
What races have you been to?
So the 1992 Monaco Grand Prix, when
here we go.
Mansell won the title,
Yeah,
and was winning the race by probably half a lap, absolutely killing it. He got a puncture, and Senna got out in front of him. And
really.
Mansell caught him up and was trying to overtake him in the most outrageous places around Monaco, which Formula One cars don't usually do. But if you get a chance to watch a race, watch Mansell try and overtake Senna
At the Monaco Grand Prix.
In 10 laps. It was incredible.
I'm just going to push. I'm going to share the screen here. So we're going to get this up, okay? So we're going to share the screen. So you might have what you're looking at up there. Oh, you're drinking your soft drink. Other drinks are available. I'm pushing share screen, okay?
Okay.
Can you see that? Let's have a look at this on Wikipedia.
Okay.
So let me just go to our old friend Wikipedia. I do like to say that we don't trust Wikipedia too much on this podcast. But, so you went and saw this race, the 1992 Monaco Grand Prix. So, now let's test your knowledge of this. So you know that Senna won it. Who's pre-qualifying classification? Michele Alboreto. Here comes some names.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go. So let's have a look at the standings here. Qualifying. So Mansell got pole for that race.
Yeah, I would. Do you know what? I don't remember the.
Here we go.
I wasn't there for that. I wasn't in the. I wasn't in Monaco for the weekend. I was staying up the road in 3 miles up the road.
Yeah. Go on. Right. So how did So where is Senna? He was third. Oh, Patrese there. He's an old timer, that one, wasn't he? Patrese.
Yeah.
I do like Patrese. He was racing since the 70s. He was at that time. He was like the oldest man in there. Not the oldest man, but the most experienced racer.
Yeah.
Never really shone.
Yeah, some stat about the most second place finishes.
Is it really?
I'm sure he had one. I remember his car almost taken off once. It looked like an aeroplane taken off. It flipped and done a kind of sort of somersault. I think they must have got the aeroplane the wrong way around that weekend.
Yeah. The designer's like, oh, that's not meant to happen.
Okay.
So you saw this race. So what I'm interested to find out is from where.
So what do you mean, as physically where was
I?
Yeah,
physically where you were, because I've looked at Monaco a lot, right?
Yeah.
Monaco.
So the one bit you don't see on the race on the cameras is where the Rascasse corner, the very tight corner. They come round and they go back up to the finish line.
The hairpin. This one.
No.
Oh no, Rascasse.
That used to be Rascasse, which is right round by the pit where they go into the pit lane.
Let's go for Rascasse. I can't spell it, podcast listeners. So or if you're listening, it doesn't matter, does it? There, this one.
That's it. Yeah, Mansell tried to overtake him on that corner, but we're on the right-hand side of that picture. There's kind of almost a cliff, like a massive great hill. So we just got standing admission tickets for like 20 francs or something like that. We was basically hanging off trees to
You were hanging off trees.
Rascasse, because the noise is just so deafening, because obviously it's down in between and in the bottom of the cliff.
How close were you then?
Above that corner, probably, I don't know, 150 yards above it.
Was this maybe what you could see?
Where are you there?
That's Rascasse.
No, that's the start of Saint Devote. That's up the hill that's after the first corner.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the
Formula One's
right hand. That's corner one, turn one.
No, that's not it, is it? We could be here all night, couldn't we?
That's more above it, yeah, probably.
And like when you see them go round, there's like a campsite on the hill, isn't there? And I've looked.
It's all kind of city, but then they go up Saint Devote, then go around the back of the houses before they get to the hairpin. It goes quiet, then they come out the tunnel, and this noise just comes. It's incredible to watch it. It's really fantastic.
And you saw, and you were like spectating it going around, and every lap you could see that he was just
just seconds faster of a lap, but he just couldn't overtake him. Senna won the race. We were staying in Italy, and of course they just go mad for Senna, so we would go out on the Sunday night, and the Italians were just all very, very excited. The fact that Senna had won the race and Mansell hadn't.
So have you been to Monaco when it's not been racing?
Yeah, of course. So
Don't say of course. Don't say of course. Some of our
I lived there in a village called Monton, which is on the Italian border, which is about half an hour away.
Sorry, what? You lived there?
About 6 months we lived there. So we used to, in 1993, so we used to travel into Monaco every weekend. That was our kind of night out, sort of Friday and Saturday night. So around race weekend.
I'm just going to announce to the podcast listeners that you're never coming on the podcast again because.
I'm sorry, apologies. So what happens? They start building the racetrack about February, March time.
Yeah.
But on race weekend, the night before the race, the track's open, so cars drive around. So basically, you walk around the track, so everyone gets on scooters or whatever, and they just.
You've gone on the scooter around the track.
Yeah, on the back of the scooter, and you drive around the track the night before the race, but it's just a great big party. It's like everyone's just going crazy. It's fantastic. It is a mad place to go. The race is invariably the most boring race of the year. But
do you think the cars are too long to do it now?
Well, it's just no overtake. It's just very difficult to overtake, isn't it? That's the problem with it.
And
it's a great place. It's a fabulous place to go to.
Well, because it's one of my dreams to go there, and I've never been there. And now you've just told me you've gone around the track as well. All I want to do
just go around it. Yeah, just drive around it.
All I want to do is just drive all the way down to the south of France and just drive around that track. To drive around that bit where Senna crashed that year. Do you remember that year he crashed in before the tunnel? And apparently he just got out of his car, just walked back to his flat.
Yeah, they all live there. Yeah, they all live there.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's still on the calendar. I think it's because they all live there.
It's the biggest race for them to win in it, and that's the only where pole position is the most critical time to get it, really. Because if you get pole position there,
what did you think of last year's Monaco Grand Prix? Let's stop sharing that screen. I'm going to tell you what race I went to in a minute. Okay, stop sharing. The only Formula One. Is that the only Formula One race you've been to?
I've been to Silverstone a couple of times.
Okay. Boring. Anyway,
the year it flooded. 2012 had all the rain and we couldn't get there, so we had a bit of a nightmare.
Did they cancel the race 2012?
No, they went ahead, but it was just a mud bath on the car park.
Oh yeah. Okay, so
Webber run the race actually.
So this is what I was going to say. What did you think of last year's Monaco Grand Prix? What do you think happened there?
You have to remind me. I can't remember.
Oh my God! Leclerc got pole, very unconventionally.
Oh, then he accidentally crashed into the wall, didn't he?
Yeah, we're saying accidentally, aren't we? Well, we'll go with that, right? And then at the start of the race,
he damaged the car so much he didn't start it, did he?
See, now being a bit of a conspiracy theorist, I like to think that was a bit of a gentleman's agreement at the start of that race. We'll drink to that. Hold on.
Why would he do that? No one would sacrifice it for anything if they got a chance of winning it.
I think because Schumachers have done that in a previous year. Crashed the race, brought out a red flag, so whoever's on the flying lap behind them, they ain't getting pole. And I think it looked dodge. I'm not even suggesting he did it on purpose. I'm suggesting that he crashed, and the way it looked to the public was another remake of that Schumacher incident where Schumacher obviously turned into the barrier to stop qualifying. And I think that was a tiny bit of a gentleman's agreement. He just seemed so calm about the fact, when they interviewed him, it was like, yeah, well, it just broke, isn't it? And it was like, I think maybe the perception of it was that might have been, other people think you might have done that on purpose, that crash.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I just don't think you'd.
I know what you're saying. You want to win it any
opportunity. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's tough one. Okay. Here's the race I went to. Here we go. Let's share the screen. Where's the button? Share screen. Desktop 2, share. Okay, can you see it?
I can now.
Okay.
Still on. Oh yeah. Okay.
Here's a race I went to, and it's nowhere near as exciting as yours. So the British Grand Prix. 1991. But I did get to see this iconic moment here.
Is that Johnny Herbert or Mansell, that one?
What, winning the race?
Yeah, was it Mansell?
It was Mansell. Johnny Herbert. Has Johnny Herbert ever won a race?
He won the British Grand Prix, Johnny Herbert.
He's never won the British Grand Prix.
Johnny Herbert has won the British Grand Prix.
How much are you putting on this? Let's have a look. I'm going to fact check you now.
Yes.
Johnny Herbert. What was he racing there?
No, check it out.
Are you doing it now? Johnny Herbert. The 1991, 1995 British Grand Prix. You know.
There we go. Benetton would have been driving, Wayne. That's 2-2 now, just so on facts you've got wrong.
Oh no, believe me, I can rival you.
Let's
just. What was he racing there? Wait a minute, mate.
Benetton.
Damon Hill was pole position. Where was Johnny Herbert? Oh, he was Benetton, and he was 5th at qualifying. Let's have a listen. Let's have a look. Even this is all about the post race. Oh, hang on. Race classic. Johnny Herbert. Do you know what? I never knew he did that. I just thought he was. That's got to be one of the only races he's won. How many?
Shocking accident, didn't he? Real bad one.
Oh, he did have a shocking accident. Yeah. So, how many Grand Prix wins? I bet you that is the only one he's won, and you've just named it. So, he's got. When you look into these drivers, they just go on and on, don't they? I mean, Jesus.
Yeah.
So, complete results. Oh, I've got to go all the way through that to find out. Well, I don't. Great Britain won. Oh, he won in Italy as well. Okay. I've never known him to win anything. Yeah. He disqualified from the French Grand Prix in 1996. Well, anyway, we're off topic here. I'll just quickly go through this British Grand Prix here. Okay, right. So I saw this, and do you know what? I hardly saw anything. Where we were, we decided to go the night before. My stepdad woke me up and went, "Well, we're going to go to the British." No, he woke me up on the morning, 5 a.m. He said, "I've decided we're going to the British Grand Prix." I was like, "What?" "Yeah, we'll go." And we got in his Vauxhall Cavalier it was, classic car. And we got there, and it was. I looked quite young. I know podcast watchers, all 3 of you, you may dispute that fact. I've got a lot of light on my face for this today. I've got a new light; it's not working. And but I got in as an under 18, and it cost me £15 to get in. That is nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
like 140 quid a ticket now or something.
It is a ridiculous amount of a ridiculous cost, but yeah. And I got stuck on a corner. I couldn't tell you which corner, and it was pre-TV screens, pre-anything. So you had one little tiny megaphone just going, and you can't see anything, you can't hear anything. I saw the most I saw was when we got there. They were doing the morning practice, and we saw a lot of that because we were walking around trying to find a nice spot. But I do remember seeing this. Now I'll tell you what, the FIA would wet the bed with this, wouldn't they? This that would be fines.
Iconic kind of moment.
That would be fines for him. That would be ridiculous. But I did see that race. That was
hanging on for dear life. The speed he was even going that on that, but it's very difficult to hold on to.
Yeah. He's got his one leg. Got one leg in there. Yeah. Back when I think they did pre. The gear sticks were still gear sticks. When you see those old clips of Senna driving around Monaco, changing gears, it's unbelievable, isn't it? But that was a race I saw. Okay, I think that's time for the end of the podcast, everybody. The man, just let the podcast listeners know, let's have one more Murray. Got to look up. Murray's got to say something. Got to look up. He's going to say something.
Like a ferret up a drain pipe.
Okay. Right, so I'll stop that applause then. That's the end of the F1 Show podcast. The man with the pits with the tits will be back next week. We'd just like to thank Steve for popping along to the podcast to share his memories, lovely memories and annoying memories of Monaco. Because I can't believe you've been around the track. I'm going around that track before. I've got to do it. And we'll see you next week. So wave goodbye, Steve.
Thank you very much.
See you later, everybody. Next week.